Hi there and welcome to this RCI tutorial video. In this video, we'll walk you through the steps involved in creating a new service and new facilitators on the RCI. Now, before we go any further, to complete the setup of a service or services and the facilitators for these services, you'll need the facilitator account setup forms. These were forms that each facilitator completed at the training days and were passed to the ODPs on the day. If you don't have these forms, please check with the other ODPs in your mental health service to see who has them. If you have any trouble with these forms, get in touch with the RCI Research Development team and we can work out a solution. Okay, so it's probably useful just to mention that the term service was chosen to represent different locations or centres or sectors or areas within your mental health service as a whole. The term used for your mental health service as a whole is organisation. There were a lot of different terms that we could have chosen, but we felt these terms were probably the best given the variety of terms that are used within different areas. So, to take an example, within your mental health service, or using the RCI terminology, within your organisation, you might have 3 different centres, and each of these centres is in a different location or a different building with different staff members. You can set up each of these centres in the RCI as different services, and each of the staff members that have completed the RCI facilitator training can be created and assigned to their respective RCI service. This should become clearer as we go through the steps involved with setting up a service and then facilitators. So to begin, we'll presume you're already logged in and we'll start from your main dashboard. As you can see here, we're logged into an ODP account within the organisation tutorial video organisation, and this was just set up for the purposes of our tutorial video. The first thing to do is go down here to your main navigational buttons and find this Create Service and Facilitator button. I'll go ahead and click the button, and as you can see, it brings you to a new page. As I scroll down this new page, you'll see the heading here that reads Create New Service and Facilitator Accounts. The first thing you'll do is enter the details for the service. This involves entering the service name, the postal address, the HSE region or regions, and the country. I'll go ahead now and enter in some information for the service we're setting up for this tutorial video. For the sake of the video, I'll just repeat the text that's inside the address fields, but obviously you'd put in the address of the actual service itself. Okay, now that that's done and all of the service details are entered, I'll move down the page to where I can create a facilitator account for this service. Just to mention that if you're just at the stage of setting up the service and are not setting up facilitator accounts yet, you can click on the Complete Setup and Save button here to set up the service without any facilitators. This is no problem to do, as you can add as many facilitators as you like at a later date, and that's covered in another video. So, to set up a facilitator, you'll need the facilitator account setup forms we mentioned at the start of the video. These forms contain all the information you'll need to fill in these fields to create each facilitator account. So we'll go ahead and enter the details for a facilitator. These details will be purely for this video. Now that that's done, I could click on this button here to the right, the Complete Setup and Save button. This would create the service and create this one facilitator within the service. However, I could instead click this button on the left, the Complete Setup and Add Another Facilitator button. This will create the service and create the facilitator within the service, but it will also bring me to a new page where I can enter another facilitator's details. Essentially, this lets you set up a number of facilitator accounts for this service. Since it's likely that you'll be doing this when you set up services, I'll click on this button to show you what happens. As you can see, I've been brought to a new page, and on this page are the same facilitator set of fields that were on the last page. So using this page, I can add another facilitator to the service we just created. You'll see the name of the service we just created at the top here. I'll go ahead and enter the details for a second facilitator, and again, these are just for the sake of this video. If I want to add even another facilitator, I could click on the Add Another Facilitator button here. This will create the current facilitator and bring me to a new page where I could enter the details for another facilitator. I could keep on doing this over and over again until I created all the facilitators for this service. Now, for the sake of this video, I'll just create this one additional facilitator. So we're creating 2 facilitators for this service. Probably worth mentioning as well that you could click on the Cancel Setup button here, and you could click on that if for whatever reason you got to this page and then decided you didn't want to add another facilitator to the service. So at this point, I've entered the information for a second facilitator, and I'll now click on the Complete Setup and Save button. This brings us to another page where the summary information of the service is presented here, and as I scroll down the page, you'll see the 2 facilitators we created are here. So in this facilitator table, we have the names of the facilitators, the date they were created, whether their accounts have been activated or not, and then the last column provides us with a button we can click on to complete tasks related to these specific accounts. For the sake of this video, we won't go into this detailed area, but this is covered in another video. Just going back to the active column here, you'll see both accounts are not active, denoted by the word no. When you set up those facilitator accounts, the RCI sent an email to the email addresses you entered for their accounts. This email will contain a website link that is unique to each facilitator. When a facilitator opens the email and clicks on the link, it will bring them to the RCI where they can finish setting up their account. Essentially, it allows each facilitator to create a username and a password for their own account. When a facilitator has created their username and password, the active field will change to yes to indicate they have activated their account. So at this point, we're all done. We've created a new service, and we've created 2 new facilitators for that service. If at a later date you wanted to add new facilitators to the service, you can watch the tutorial video entitled Adding New Facilitators to a Service. Hopefully this video has been helpful to you, and, as always, if you have any questions or queries, please get in touch with the RCI Research Development team.